another terrific one-on-one interview on the Lymphedema channel hosted by Lympha Press. I'm Brenda Viola with Lympha Press, and every month I send out invites to our monthly roundtables. And I always ask, if you know someone who has a great Lympha Press story, let me know. Well, I got a reply from Fernanda Cooley, who is a nurse practitioner herself and now has a Lympha Press. And she said, I'd love to talk to you. So Fernanda, welcome.
Thank you so much, Brenda. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm glad you're here. So tell me a little bit about your condition and your diagnosis.
So I was diagnosed with breast cancer 5 years ago. So I'm a five-year cancer survivor.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then 2 years later, so 3 years ago now, I was going to Brazil, where I'm originally from, and I was flying on this like 15-hour flight. I had my sleeve to prevent whatever problems. But as soon as I landed in Brazil, the next day, my face swelled on the contralateral side of my cancer, which was kind of weird. And 2-3 days later, this swelling came down, but then my arm swelled up and was tingly and heavy. And my mother-in-law has been a breast cancer survivor for 20 plus years and has lymphedema. So I knew exactly what it was. And so the last 3 years, I have been on this personal journey to I want to do everything to get my lymphedema as well controlled as possible. And I'm on a personal journey. If I can find a cure and be the first one to be free of lymphedema and be reversed, I will be, and hopefully share it with the world.
I with your energy and your enthusiasm and positive attitude, I wouldn't doubt it. The first thing, your trademark is your smile. So I love what you're bringing to this interview, because so many breast cancer survivors get this 1-2 punch. A cancer diagnosis, you deal with it, and then later lymphedema shows up. It happens commonly. And yet your response is, all right, well, let's find an answer. So where did your journey next take you to find an answer?
Well, so I knew to start with lymphedema massages. So while in Brazil, when it had just started, I went to look for somebody. I had a 3-hour massage, and my mom measured my arm, and it was incredibly different from before and after. And I had already contacted my oncologist, had set up to see a physical therapist when I landed. So the next day I went and I did several sessions. And I wanted to share something because, you know, a lot of stories that happen and discoveries are kind of like that serendipitous discoveries. And I had also, by chance or not so much, bilateral plantar fasciitis. And I went to see a podiatrist, and he recommended a steroid pack. And at the same time, so I had just come back from Brazil, went to see the podiatrist, went to see the physical therapist, and started that steroid pack. And she had done my measurements and on both arms. And I started the steroid pack, and I had this sensation my arm was decreasing in swelling. And at the end of my 6 visits with her, she was like, you know, scratching her head. She's like, I've never seen anybody go in the negative. So your lymphedema arm is smaller now than your arm that doesn't have lymphedema.
And this is after using a steroid pack.
A steroid pack immediately after it happened. So I wonder if that's going to become normal practice in the future. Like, hey, you just developed lymphedema, let's do a steroid pack.
So this is a perfect time for our disclaimer. We are always about telling people's personal stories. We're not offering any medical advice, but if there's something you're hearing in this interview and it says, please talk to your doctor about it. We never want to take the place of medical advice, but I think that, you know, everything someone learns helps to inform someone else's journey. So I appreciate that. So you still hadn't found pneumatic compression.
No. So this was early on. So we're talking 3 years ago. And then I would do all this personal research. What's going on? I ran into Dr. Rockwell's information. Is it Stanley Rockwell?
Dr. Stanley Rockwell is a rock star in the lymphedema world.
So I tried some of the
Roxon, sorry.
Thank you. Sorry, I butchered his name. So I read about it. I tried ketoprofen, didn't really have any good results with that. And then I found about infrared saunas, and I've been going to an infrared sauna and exercising with my compression. I messed up one day and didn't wear it, and my arm swelled. So don't do that. And that also, I feel like my lymph fluid was like honey that was hard. And as I started going, it would feel like it was like you melted in the microwave for a little bit. And I could actually feel the sensation of my lymphatic fluid kind of plop, 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 kind of like moving. So I've been doing this for almost 2.5 years now, pretty consistently. I did something, again, disclaimer, but I recommend seeing a nutritionist. I did something that's called MRT testing, and it's finding food sensitivities, and that has helped. And I'm avoiding lots of foods that cause problems for me. Again, another one was Chuck Ehrlich, and he talks about how lymphedema starts in the gut. So I'm putting all these pieces of the puzzle together, and exercising, nutrition, and doing a saltwater pool, everything that I can. And the person that had been doing my lymphedema massages moved to Connecticut, and I'm in Oklahoma. So I was like orphaned, and I started looking and found someone that my insurance would help and pay for it. And I went to see her. We had an hour-long discussion. She asked me pretty much what you just asked me. And she said, the only thing, you're doing everything right. You're so compliant. She's like, the only thing that I don't see you doing is you haven't tried a pneumatic compression. So I heard about and she recommended Lympha Press. She's like, that is the best that I recommend because it has sequential, and I forgot the other type, but I always use sequential.
Peristaltic, which is a wave.
Yes.
But I love where you're going with this, so keep going.
So she told me about it was around November of last year, and I got it back end of January, beginning of February of this year. So I've only used it for a little over a month and a half. And so she told me about that, and I have the measurements. And so one of the things about it in my lymphedema has been right up here, that it's just a little fluffier and I can feel the liquid, and not had a lot of difference in my measures there in the last 2.5 years. And then I have my measures from, let's see, what month is this one? From April the 5th. So this was my most current one. And then I have mine from, this is March. I want to go back to the beginning.
I would love, while you're looking that up so that you can give us an overview, I want to say that your background as a nurse practitioner even makes what you're saying more compelling, because you are in the business of healthcare. And you know about taking accurate measurements and the importance of tracking progress. So I'm all ears. Tell me about your measurement journey since using the Lympha Press.
Yeah, so I've actually made an Excel sheet, and I put the measurements from every visit that she gave me. And just going from January to currently, the biggest changes have been right here in this area that has been the problem area. Up here, there's not been a lot of change because it's been well controlled, but here it was, the elbow measurement was 27.2 like last week. And, so this is my right one. So 27.5, so just 0.3, but the next measure was 31.9, and before it was 33.3. So 1.4 centimeter difference. And the axilla was 33.5 last week, and before it was 37. So 3.5, is that, no, 3.5 centimeters difference. So I am ecstatic because I can tell, I feel like it's smaller, and it's like, it's a diameter. So if it's, and there was one measure that was 1. So it's like 3, 1, and 1 centimeters change. So if you think of it as like a cone, so much better. It feels better. I can tell that it's flowing better. I feel like my back, like I can tell, like, because I have like lymphedema and lipedema both. That's the other thing. That's why I say the plantar fasciitis is not so random and connected. I have this inflammation going on in my whole body. So I am such a proponent of using your lymphatic pump, use your compression sleeve, do exercise, watch your nutrition. It's really that holistic care, which, I have been a professional student my whole entire life. I'll do a little zoom here, like on my wall. So these are half of my, I can't even look at them.
You got credentials.
But there's 5 over here. There's my doctoral degree. There's my 2 of my masters. I have 4 master's degrees. So I've been a student, and I love to learn, and I want to find things. So I'm not so cray about, wanting to find a cure. We're gonna find a cure. And I think that all these things are part of that journey.
So, all right, I have goosebumps. I want to go back to the Lympha Press for a minute, because I think a lot of women may get a diagnosis and then be prescribed a pump. Not all pumps and not all garments are created equal.
And
What's
I do
it feel like?
So I do the pre, I do the sequential, and I do the post. So it very much mimics what you do when you have a lymphedema decompression lymphedema massage, because you want to kind of like pump a little bit the areas that is going to let backflow move into there. So it's like you want to do the axilla, you want to do like over here, because that's where the lymph is going to flow. If it's backed up, like, if you picture 200 car pile up, you cannot get that last car to move before you get the first ones to move, and then it starts to flow in that direction.
That is such a great analogy. And is it easy to use?
Yes, it is. Like, I will do a little like confession, because it comes with a big paper that says, do not use until the person contacts you to explain how to use this. And I was like, well, I've worked in the ER. We had to learn things. I just read the instructions. I plugged it in, and I don't recommend that people do it. But again, coming from the medical field, having to use equipment in the ER, you have to use all these things. So I used it. So when they called me to set up the appointment to explain, I was like, I'm sorry, I've been using it. I know I've been using it right. It's working wonders. I love it. And it's been life-changing and hope infusing.
That's going to give a lot of people listening to this interview hope as well.
Yeah. And it's like, you kind of mentioned when you first hear the diagnosis of lymphedema, I felt like it's a slap on your face from cancer. It's kind of like, hey, you just thought you beat me. You've gone through all these things, like, chemo, radiation, however many surgeries. And I had like 3 procedures on top of 5 surgeries. And you're just like, you feel worn out, and you're like, okay, I'm ready to live and put cancer behind me. And lymphedema comes in, like slap in your face and go, no, now you're going to deal with something every day for the rest of your life that as of right now, there's no cure. And it's like, you can just feel your hope kind of like, being discouraged. And my oncologist didn't get it, because I kind of had a bad reaction when I had an injection on the other arm. But still, I had like this whole body swelling and hot to the touch. And my oncologist was like, well, but you know what? But you're alive. And, but I'm like, you don't understand what it does emotionally to have a setback in your lymphedema management when you're doing everything right. So I just really worked very systematically to improve and to maintain that improvement. And there was a study, because again, I'm like, oh, study evidence-based. And when my lymphedema massage therapist told me about the pump, I went looking for research about it. And I found this one. It's been a while now because it was back in November of last year, but it was basically a study that had brought in a group of people, let's just say it was 50 and 50 of them only had the manual lymphedema decompression, and 50 of them had 30 minutes of a pump and 30 minutes of lymphedema massage. And they measured them, like, let's say 6 weeks later. And the group that had both had a 50% reduction that was greater than the group that only had the lymphedema manually. And then they reversed those groups. And the group that had done only the manual and now had the pump then had those gains. And the group that had used the pump and then stopped and just went back to do only manual lymphedema decompression, their measures went up. So it's something that at this time you want to use regularly and continuously.
And that's encouraging to people. And you know, when you see results, it's encouraging to keep going. This works. It's easy. I'm going to keep using it. And until there is a cure, and we are with you. We love helping people and we want to provide answers, but this is hope and a lifeline in the interim. And so any final words for someone who is searching for solutions and they're watching this?
Well, I really want to encourage people to take good care of yourself because you're more in control. You're not so much a victim, of your health. So take every measurement, read up on yourself, be your own advocate, ask for your providers, educate them. My own oncologist said, I don't know much about lymphedema, and maybe you can be our resource person to teach our clients because they're so focused on the cancer care. So look out for it, reach out, ask about Lympha Press if it would be a good option for you.
Thank you so much, Fernanda. I am thrilled that we talked. And if you're interested in sharing your lymphedema story and your experience with Lympha Press, I would love to hear from you. Email me, bviola@lymphapress.com. And Fernanda, I am cheering you on. You are an amazing advocate and good things ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Blessings.